This is Jason with MotiveWave. Welcome to today's webinar, MotiveWave's mobile app update. In this webinar, we'll be taking you through the newly added features and give an update on the app's status. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to attend. Today's presentation will be approximately 25 minutes, and there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. There should be a Q&A button on your Zoom controls where you'll be able to type in your questions and feedback, so go ahead and do that at any time. This webinar recording will be posted to our YouTube page and/or the video tutorial section on our website. And if you're watching this webinar on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And before we get into the content, I'll go over a quick disclaimer. There's substantial risk of loss in trading commodity futures, options, stocks, equities, indices, cryptocurrencies, and foreign exchange products. Futures and options trading has large potential reward, but also large potential risk. You must be aware of these risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the markets. And please do not trade with money you can't afford to lose. We've also posted CFTC Rule 4.41 for you to read. And I also want to mention that MotiveWave has a 14-day risk-free trial, and you can sign up at motivewave.com. All right, so let's discuss the status of the mobile app. So currently, the MotiveWave mobile app is in the very late stages of beta testing. The mobile app will be available for iOS on the Apple App Store and for Android on the Google Play Store. If you have a MotiveWave purchase license with current updates and support, or if you're on an active lease, the mobile app should be available to you at no added cost, provided the app stores allow this. We are currently navigating the submission and review process, so we don't anticipate much more of a wait until it's released. You will have access to the features available on your desktop edition. So if you're on the order flow edition, you'll have access to the same or similar order flow features on the mobile app. As of this moment, we also plan to offer the mobile app as a standalone purchase from the app stores. And if you're interested in purchasing it by itself without the desktop app, that could be for you. This could be quite useful as an on-the-go app to manage trades, even if you use a completely different desktop trading program. In the future, we plan to look into the possibility of syncing analyses from the desktop to mobile, so it may be extremely useful to run both desktop and mobile together. As we've mentioned in previous webinars, not all connections offer compatible APIs for mobile apps, so we only have a limited number of connections. Currently, we have Rhythmic, CQG, Binance, Kraken, Coinbase, TD Ameritrade, and Oanda. And we are open to adding other connections in the future. And we would also like to apologize to our iOS users who were unable to test the beta because of the developer mode issue that restricted use. We believe this was a limitation introduced sometime around iOS 16 and made it difficult or downright impossible to install the beta version on some Apple devices. We anticipate an Apple Store approval, hopefully in the near future, so you shouldn't have to wait too much longer. And today I'll be using an Android emulator for the presentation, which will emulate an Android tablet. As most of you probably know, we have a tablet mode, which I'll be showing you today, and a more basic phone mode. If you see me struggle to pan or move the chart in any way, it's because my emulator doesn't play well with my mouse. This is not something you will experience on a mobile device. So in the more recent beta releases, we added a device authorization system that should make it easy to use MotiveWave on your mobile device. This system will send you an authorization link to the registered email that you used for your MotiveWave profile. All you need to do is click the link. This is much easier than trying to copy and paste your license key, possibly between devices. And please note that this new authorization system may change in the future, but it's currently what we're using right now. So let's step through a device authorization example now as if you just downloaded MotiveWave and you're using it for the first time. So you can go ahead and open the mobile app. And it's going to come up with a screen that says this device has not been authorized to use MotiveWave. Please restart the application and authorize this device. You don't actually need to restart the application. You can just select authorize this device. So in order to authorize a device, you'll need to enter your email address here associated with your MotiveWave purchase. If you're unsure what address you used, you can open up the desktop application and go to the Help About menu, and you'll see the email address used. Alternatively, if you've never had a MotiveWave free trial or purchase, you can select the 14-day free trial option here to sign up for our free trial. So now that we've entered in our email, all we have to do is click Send Email. And this will send an authorization email that'll be valid for about 30 minutes. So let me just go ahead, open up this email, and bring it on screen for you. As you can see, it's going to show you your device ID and your device type. So your device type would be, say, iPhone or Google Pixel. I don't have it here simply because I'm using the emulator. It's also going to show your location. For me, this is Calgary, Canada. All you have to do is click this link here, and it's going to say device access enabled, and that's all we have to do. So I can just move that out of the way now. And from here, all we have to do is select continue. So now this device has been authorized. And at this point, we're at the main workspace/login screen. From here, we can continue on as normal, as we've shown in previous webinars. So let's just go ahead and log into a connection. All right, so let's touch on a few of the recent feature additions to the mobile app. So first of all, we added the ability to cross-trade. For those that are unaware of what this is, it will allow you to chart and look at futures E-mini contracts like the ES here. And when you place trades, they are sent to the micro contract, which in the case of ES would be MES. The reason one may want to do this is to see the volume or price action on the larger contract while executing on the micros to reduce your risk. In order to enable cross-trade, all you have to do is long press on the chart background and select cross-trade, and it will also list the cross-trade instrument next to it. And what you'll notice is there is a cross-trade label up in the top left corner of your chart here. And if you want to disable that again, just long press your chart and select cross-trade, and it will be disabled. So let's bring back the long press menu here, and you'll see that we have rearranged a few of the options. We still have the ability to show the crosshair, open the object viewer, place orders, etc. But we've also added a more option at the bottom. Selecting this will give you a few more options, such as clearing the local data. You'll have the RTH, ETH session toggle, you'll have role options, and the edit instrument dialog. So if you take a look at the edit instrument dialog, you can see we're able to change a few options now, including the trading hours, the minimum tick, point value, etc. And we also have rollover options for popular futures contracts. If we go back into the long press menu, the chart long press menu, you also notice that we have a share chart option. And this is also available in the top toolbar. So what you can do here is you're able to share the chart with any installed apps on your mobile device. So you could share with your messages, SMS, text, email, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Since I'm using an emulator, I don't have any installed apps really, so I don't see any of the options here, but you would on your own mobile device. So that option right there will share this selected chart. But if you would like to share the entire screen, so that would include the watch list, the DOM, etc., you can go to the overflow menu, which is the bottom right-hand corner of the app, and then select share screen. So that will share the entire screen. That could be useful for sending to support if we ask for it. And while we're talking about the top toolbar here, I should mention that we added a lock scroll button. So let me quickly show you that now. I'm just going to move two charts next to each other, and I'm just going to enable this lock scroll button here. Once that's enabled, you can see the charts move together. And I can disable that now. And I could move this chart back over top of the other one if I wanted. All right, so another item that we added to the top toolbar was the chart templates. So if you select this square looking icon here, you can access the chart template menu. So for this instance, we could add a few studies to the chart. Actually, let me throw this chart next to the other one and remove the DOM here quickly. Let's see, we added a couple studies to this chart. There we go. We go ahead and select Save as Template, and we could call this one Webinar and save it. And then if we wanted to apply that template to another chart, we just select that chart, select our chart template dropdown, and then select our webinar template. It's just going to ask us if we want to delete the existing studies, which we're fine with. We select OK. And now we can see the studies on both charts. And if we'd like to get rid of any studies on the chart, you can just select them, click the little trash icon, that will delete them. Or alternatively, you could long press the chart, go into the object viewer, and just delete them from here. All right, so next up on the top toolbar here, we have titled Analyses menu, which is this folder icon. We recently added titled analyses. So if you're familiar with our desktop application, you'll likely understand what a titled analysis is. For those of you who do not know, a titled analysis is your analysis. That would be your studies, your drawings, all these objects in your chart. And they are actually saved to a file. So if you closed a chart, those studies and drawings could be brought back at a later date. It also offers the ability to show the exact same titled analysis on multiple charts. So for example, we could have, let's say, a 1 hour chart here. Let me go ahead and change that. A 1 hour ES here, and maybe a 5 minute over here. And if I added the exact same title analysis on both charts, we would see the same studies and drawings. So let me go ahead and create a new titled analysis. All I have to do is select this folder icon, select new analysis, and then we have to give it a name. So we're just going to call this one ES. And it's going to create this new ES analysis here. And if we want, we can just delete the old titled one since we don't need it anymore. And we, since this ES titled analysis was already created, we can just go over and select it from the drop-down menu. So now both charts are showing the titled analysis of ES. And if we went ahead and dropped any objects on the chart, let's say here, we wanted to add a support zone. You can see it's going to show up on our 1 hour chart and our 5 minute chart. So that is the titled analysis that we recently added. One feature that we also added was the option to aggregate levels on the DOM and the order book. So for example, if you're trading, let's say the NQ, the NASDAQ futures, or maybe Bitcoin, crypto, and you find the instrument to be too volatile, you can combine the DOM levels or rows to make it easier to follow. So this is a feature that we don't have on our desktop app yet, but we should be adding it in the near future. So in order to illustrate this better, I'm actually going to open up a Binance workspace. It's a little more clear to see on Binance. Just going to delete some of these that we don't need to see here. And what I want to do is I'm going to attach a DOM and an order book panel. There we go. So as you can see, the DOM on Bitcoin is completely unusable. There's no point in even looking at it. If I open the DOM preferences, so I can do that by selecting this little gear icon here, you can see that we added a new ticks per row setting, or ticks/row. Right now, by default, it's set to 1, so 1 tick per row. But we can go ahead and combine, let's say, or aggregate 200 levels. So if we go ahead and do that and apply the changes, you can see that it's going to look a lot better. I can even do the same for the order book. So we have this setting sitting at the bottom of the panel here. So I can just select this option, enter 200 as well, click OK. And now we're going to have this same sort of 200 level DOM aggregate period for the DOM and the order book, excuse me. And as you can see, this is quite a massive improvement. The DOM went from being absolutely unusable to completely usable now. And as you may have noticed, we've also added a background histogram on the order book, which just displays the cumulative quantities in this nice little background graph here. And you can toggle this on and off from the order book preferences. So just check this gear icon here. And on the cumulative volume tab, you can either show or hide this or change the colors if you like. So I'm going to try to explain how these DOM levels are being combined. So we currently only have one method to combine the levels. We call this the rounding aggregation method. So let me just bring up a table quickly here. So for example, let's say we set a 4-tick aggregation on the ES. On the left side of the DOM in black font here is, let's say these are trades that have been taken or that have taken place on the time and sales. And next to that, this is just an example of what would be shown on the DOM as it would flash, say, on the last price column, or if you're using the volume profile, which price bucket essentially would these trades go into? So as I mentioned earlier, we're using a rounding aggregation. So if a trade happened at 40-30 half, would actually get rounded up into the 40-31 bucket. Same for 40-30 75, 40-31 even would also be in 40-31, and for 40-31 25 would actually round down into the 40-31 bucket. And so on and so forth. You can kind of see which buckets they fall into. So as mentioned, the rounding aggregation is the only method that we have at the moment. And the reason we chose this method is because if some user selected maybe an odd ticks per row. So as we know, in this example on the ES, there are 4 ticks, there's quarter points. But what happens if someone chose 3 ticks per row? On say the ES or NQ, rounding may be the only method that makes sense to combine them. However, what I would like to know from you guys is if you would like another rounding, or excuse me, not another rounding, but another aggregation method. So another one that we discussed could be something like a figure aggregation, meaning that anything from a whole number is combined. So for on the ES, it would combine 40-31, 40-31 a quarter, a half, a 3/4. So it would combine all those price levels, and that would be a figure aggregation. For stocks or crypto, maybe you could only set it to a certain whole figure, like 10 cents, 25 cents, or $1. So please give this DOM and order book aggregation a try out, and reach out to support@motivewave.com with your feedback on any other aggregation methods you would like to see used. So hopefully that made sense. So some other new features that were added have to do with orders. So we've actually improved the chart orders. So the display of the chart orders has improved to optimize space, so they're not so large anymore. And we now have options for order display. So you can go into the preferences menu, which is this gear icon in the top right corner here, and go over to orders. And here you'll be able to select the align. So you can either align it to the left, to the right. You can change the line style, show the cancel, show field orders, and actually change the font. So you have a little bit more control. Hopefully it's not overlapping the current price now. What else? We also have the long press on the price axis to open an order dialog window at the given price. So now you can select a given price, say 22,800. You long press there, and it's going to come up with an order dialog that you can submit an order from. Another way that we added to place an order is using the crosshair. So what I'm just going to do now is just enable the crosshair. All we have to do is long press the chart background, select show crosshair. And what you can do is just tap this little plus icon, and it's going to give you an option to place an order. So depending on your connection, you may have different order types. So in this instance, we can do, a buy limit or a sell stop, and some other connections may have other order types. And as you can see, you also have the option to add a price guide as well. So that's kind of another way to place an order. It's really handy to have, I think. And speaking of the crosshair, we've actually added a new global crosshair, which is enabled by going into the preferences menu. And on the general tab, we have the global crosshair option. So this works just as it does on the desktop. If you have multiple charts open in your workspace, that crosshair is going to follow you on both charts. Okay, and one other option we've added is we've added a location and time zone for the chart. So let me just remove the order book here. So this is useful if you're in, say, some time zone, but you'd like to display Central or Eastern hours on your chart. You just find that more useful. So to access this, click on the gear icon in the top right corner of the chart. So this would be your chart settings. On the General tab, scroll all the way to the bottom to Location, and then select the location that you want. So you could just select Eastern, Central, Pacific, UTC, etc. That's just going to give you a different display down here. All right, so I also want to mention that just by default, MotiveWave will display your current time zone on the chart. And lastly, we have fixed many bugs and done significant memory optimization for the DOM and order heat map. We found those were using a bit too much memory. So hopefully in these latest releases, MotiveWave's DOM and order heat map aren't consuming too much memory. So, all right, that covers most of the important updates to the mobile app since we had our last webinar. We can now move on to the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please let me know now in the Q&A section of Zoom. Okay, so Spin asks, will the mobile version be able to run custom developed studies and strategies? No, not currently. We will not be able to use the Java SDK in the mobile version. If we do decide to decide to add anything for custom studies, we may possibly look into using a new language for that. But no, sorry, Spin, that's not going to be available for mobile. Okay, Thomas says, conflict with desktop. When I use the app, it tends to log out the desktop out of the broker. Broker is a Wanda. Is this normal? Thomas, this is normal if your broker does not allow you to have multiple sessions. So this doesn't really have anything to do with MotiveWave per se. It's just your broker may only allow one session. Unless you think that is an error. If you think that is an error, you can just email support@motivewave.com and we can maybe see if we can reproduce it here, but most likely that's expected behavior. Terry says, can you explain the cross-trade feature? Right, I'll have to fire up a futures workspace here. Log in. So cross-trade, so how do I explain this? Cross-trade, you will chart using the E-mini contract, but what will happen is you'll actually be placing trades on the micro contract to reduce risk, since the micros are 1/10 the value of the minis. But the thing is the micros essentially just follow the mini contracts. So a lot of people will, chart, take a look at like a volume imprint, let's say on the ES, and you'll want to base your trades off of volume on the ES, and then you just place the orders automatically get sent to the micro contract. Terry, if you have any more questions, you can email support and we'll get that answered for you. Can the analysis, Thomas says, can the analysis be shared between the desktop to the app? Not currently, Thomas, but this is something that we would really like to add. So ideally, we'd have essentially a nice ecosystem where you could have your analysis created on your desktop and be able to view it on your mobile. Not currently available, but this is something that we are planning to look into in the future. Anonymous says, I have 2 questions for the desktop version. Where should I go to ask, or who's the right person to speak with? You can just email support@motivewave.com and hopefully we'll be able to answer that question for you, or the 2 questions, sorry. Bjorn says, hi, Jason, when will this application be available for interactive brokers? That's actually, it's on our to-do list. So Interactive Brokers has their own mobile app, and it is fairly decent, but I believe it would be beneficial if we added Interactive Brokers. So that is something we're going to be looking at in the near future. When I say near future, it could be, it could be weeks, it could be a couple months, something in that range. Aaron Bradley says, does this have TPO? Yes, it does. So you can go ahead and add a study here. Oops, let me just search for it. Let's see, time frame 1 day, tick interval, number of TPOs. Maybe we'll just do 2. Add, and you can add TPO to the chart just like that. It's essentially very similar to our desktop application TPO. Is there another question? Is there a footprint tool? Yes, there is. So we also have the volume imprint. And I actually did a webinar on this a few months ago. We haven't updated, or excuse me, we haven't uploaded it to YouTube yet, but what we'll do is we'll make sure that those videos get uploaded tonight, or excuse me, within the next 24 hours. And then you can go check out that, I believe it's called MotiveWave order flow, or mobile order flow tools, or something to that extent. Can we import chart analysis from desktop to mobile? Not currently, although we are looking into that. Another TPO question, we answered that one. Tan says, good job. Interactive brokers, please. So another request for interactive brokers. Thanks for the feedback, Tan. Appreciate that. Spin, thank you. Aaron says, is iOS and Android both in the same spot currently as far as development, or is one further along than the other? No, Aaron, they're both in the exact same spot. Both should be launching very, very, very soon. We have another question. Will workspaces sync from the cloud? Not currently, although we would really like this. So development will be looking into this. I think it would be very handy to have. Thanks for the feedback and the question. Another question, how do I get the app? Since we're in just pretty much the end stages of the beta, there's no sense in signing anybody else up for that. We're in the submission stages to the app stores. So once the app is released, we will be sending out an email of some sort. So I'm probably going to do some sort of launch webinar or some sort of email. So we'll let all of our users know when it's available. We have another question. Are double connections planned to be introduced for the mobile app? Yes, we actually do have double connections right now. So if you're on the professional or the ultimate edition of MotiveWave and you fire it up, you're actually able to add multiple connections per workspace. And I believe I covered that in a previous webinar, and hopefully we just can get those up for you within 24 hours and you can take a look at those old webinars. Another question. I use an Australian broker, Blueberry Markets, because of their higher margins. Do you use them? Not currently, but what you can do is send an email to support@motivewave.com and request it, and we'll throw it in our feature request sheet. Another question here, Elliott Wave. I assume you just mean, is Elliott Wave coming? It's on the list. So Elliott Wave, when we first release for version 1.0, it's not going to be included. However, we do have plans to include Elliott Wave and think that would be a great addition to the mobile app. So thank you for the question and the feedback. Victor says, I signed into the webinar late. Can you repeat when the mobile app will be released? So we're just in the final stages here, submission and review process. It can take a little back and forth with the app stores, but we're hoping within a couple weeks would be our ideal timeline. Aaron says, are you accepting beta testers? Not currently. It's just a little bit late in the beta testing program for that. Can you pinch and zoom out on charts, Richard? Yes, you can. It's going to be kind of hard for me to show you this because I'm just using it on an Android emulator with a mouse and keyboard. But yeah, you can pinch and zoom on the charts. Ajit says, is there ever going to be a news feed? That is a really good question. No, we don't currently have plans for a news feed, and the news feed would have to likely come from the API you're using. So I would say that is something, maybe you could send an email to support@motivewave.com and we could add a feature request for you. A lot of the APIs we use don't have news feeds. Will you post a video of the webinar? I missed the first part, Stephen. Yes, we will. We'll try to get this one up within 24 hours this time. Thanks for joining. Okay. Aaron, are we able to export trades so we can import them into TradeView? Does the mobile version have the stats as well, or is that desktop only? Aaron, currently that's desktop only. we don't have the ability to export the trades in the mobile. Aaron says, is there a way to quickly buy and sell at market, bid or ask? I think I see the panel icon up there, but it's curious if that's it. Yeah, so we have a little panel here you can use. Just a little trade panel, buy and sell. And then you can also have one on the DOM as well. If you have, Aaron, if you have any feedback, like you've used the app and you have any feedback on what might be possibly more useful, just let us know. Thank you for the questions. Ajit says, what about using Bazinga for the API newsfeed or even having an RS feed? Ajit, that might be a good idea. We can look into that. Would you mind sending an email to support@motivewave.com with that suggestion? I'll write it down here too, but if you send an email, we'll make sure that we can look into that for you. Okay, next question. Are exit strategies available on mobile? Let's see here. So we don't currently have the exit strategies on mobile. What you can do is use this little OCO button to submit a limit and stop. So the thing with the exit strategies is sometimes the exit strategy doesn't fully use a server-side order, if that makes sense. So we don't want to have the user rely on anything within the app. Just because, you know, if you switch to another application that you're running, it may put, MotiveWave to sleep and it won't be able to send those orders. So this is why we don't have exit strategies. But you can send just a simple OCO like this by using the OCO button. And those orders would all be server side, so you don't have to count on MotiveWave itself sending the order after the fact. Okay, that looks like most of the questions here. If there isn't anything else, I guess we'll just wrap it up here. So I just want to mention that MotiveWave has a 14-day risk-free trial. I apologize to anyone if you didn't get your question answered. Please email support@motivewave.com and hopefully we'll get that taken care of for you. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to attend. We appreciate it. Have a great evening and we'll talk to you soon.